For over 20 years, I knew Ben Terry, not only as a broadcaster, but also as my best friend. In fact, long before he was a broadcaster. Ben and I shared many adventures together, and we also shared our commonalities, our love for broadcasting, and a commitment to the people and communities that we serve. But Ben had a unique ability to endear himself to the community, and that's something that many people in Kosciusko never really got to see because it happened in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where Ben was the trusted meteorologist at KPLC. I want to share two conversations with you now. One is with John Bridges, who was a coworker of Ben's, who was a morning anchor at KPLC, with whom he worked for many years, and also with his boss, Jillian Corder, who is the news director at KPLC. First, the conversation with John, and it's long, but it's good. You'll want to listen to the whole thing. You've known Ben for a long time, been one of his closest associates and best friends down there in Lake Charles. Probably, I don't want to assume or anything, but I could call you my counterpart down there.
Right, exactly. I kind of feel that way too.
I think it was only fitting that you accepted the award for Ben this weekend, inducting him into the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters. How did that come to be?
I'm really not sure how Ben's name came to be entered in that. I know that there were several broadcasters, Louisiana broadcasters, who knew Ben from his last couple of years and what all he's gone through. I wish I knew exactly who nominated him. I didn't really know how that came about. When I found out that he was going to be inducted, I thought that is just probably the ultimate in awards for a broadcaster here in Louisiana. I told Kathy, his mom, that this was a major deal, that most of the folks that are inducted into the Louisiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame were older and from larger markets, that had, I guess, more influence, so to speak, over bigger populations. So guys in the smaller markets were often overlooked in the past, but are now starting to be brought into the hall. But I just wanted to let her know what an honor it was. And when they asked me to accept it on behalf of the station and on behalf of the family, I just thought this is wonderful. I was felt like that it was just an honor that was that kept his name going, for years. We met when he first came in, his first day to be interviewed for the job. And I was immediately struck by how much we had in common. And I've often told people, and I think I said it in the video that was played at his funeral, sometimes I didn't know if he was definitely a friend and a coworker, but some days I didn't know if Ben was my younger brother, like a little brother, or a son, because we just got along so well and kind of had the same beliefs. We were brought up the same way, and we were very serious about our jobs. And Ben took that job seriously. It was fun to watch him become a part of the community too, because in a small market, we see students, graduate from college and start out their careers and stay with us about a year or two, and then they move on to larger markets so that they can survive, and advance in the area. Every once in a while, we see a few that stay in the small market. They love where they are. And I saw Ben come in, and I encouraged him to be a part of the community, embrace the community, be a part of these walks and public events where they invite you out to MC and things like that. And he just took at it and started becoming part of the community, and the community became part of him. And each little severe weather incident or a hurricane that would come along, he grew a little bit more, and the public came to trust him, and like he was their son, telling them what to do. And so I think that was just beautiful to watch him become part of the community and see the community embrace him. And I think that was evident as he became sick, and fought his battle with cancer, and people were right there along with him.
Yes, I watched that, from afar.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was amazed. I told Jillian, and I've often said this to people here in Mississippi, is that there were two Bens that I knew.
Right.
And I didn't know the one that was KPLC Lake Charles Ben, as well as I knew the Mississippi Kosciusko Ben. But in both places, he was loved and embraced, and I think the turnout at his memorial in Lake Charles was evidence of that. I think the long-term friendships that he formed there, and the people who remember him, I think that was all evidence of what you said, that he became part of the community and the community became part of him.
It really, and never so much. I mean, I knew it was there, but whenever a lot of people started approaching me saying that when Ben was fighting his cancer, they said, we want to do something. We want to do a fundraiser for him. And there were 3 or 4 different groups of people that didn't even really know that they were working on this. And so when they each approached me, I said, oh, wow, y'all need to all get together and plan something, on a major scale. And they did. I would have never, we knew that there would be a good response to people coming out to his all day fundraiser at the Burton Coliseum. But as the people started coming in, it was really blowing me away as to how many people showed up and how many. I think we raised. I say we. I'll give them full credit. Raised over $80,000, and in a time when we were recovering from 2 hurricanes and all kinds of disasters, and the economy the way it was, they gave from their hearts, and everybody wanted to help out, and it was just wild to see people come from all over. And I wanted Ben to know where all this was coming from, because I think he was actually having trouble processing it. Why would these people do things like this? And I said, it's because they love you. I mean, you were just natural on the air, and they knew you were not someone who was up there just to showboat. You were there to help them out. And whenever the fundraiser was going on at Burton, Ben came in from the back, and we were trying to isolate him, from the crowd. So, because at the time he was susceptible to, to germs and things like that. And I saw him peek out from one of the entries to a level upper in the seating area. And he just kind of stopped and stared and looked out and kind of absorbed it all. And I quickly got my phone out and snapped a picture of him watching the festivities quietly, and all it shows is the back of his head, and him watching it. And I thought, I've got to freeze this moment, because it meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to me to get a snapshot of that so I could always remember it.
I'm going to share something with you, and that is about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, there was a position open at WLBT, and me thinking about, Ben's career, I was encouraging him to apply. I said, you need to go to a bigger market if you want to grow in the broadcasting field.
Right.
And I have never, until, last year, whenever the support, and not just last year, but over the past couple of years, when the support was so big, I've never been so glad that I've been so wrong.
I know. And I remember when that situation came up, and I quietly, I kept my mouth shut. I bit my tongue, because when he was talking to me about the possibility of that, the first thing I wanted to say was, Ben, this is a career move. You need to make it, because, we know how those things work. And but I thought, I don't know. This maybe is not what he's thinking about. And so finally, after I found out that he did not go, I said, Ben, you didn't want to leave and go to a larger market? He said, I love it here. I found my home. And I just kind of smiled, and thought, okay, I'm so glad I didn't say anything and mess things up, And I think his decision had already been made, that he loved where he was, and having lived here all my life and decided to choose Southwest Louisiana as the place where I was going to grow up, marry, have a child, and hang around for my career. It kind of made me feel good, like there are still some folks like me that are left. So it was just kind of fun to work with him, and I knew he was part of the community then.
Years ago, Ben and I, we did a broadcast together when this big tornado was coming and hit Yazoo City, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And it was the first, I think maybe the first AP award that he won, and we all got it jointly because he worked so hard that day trying to get the information out. But I think maybe people don't know that Ben and you did the same thing. You volunteered for the college radio station there at McNeese, and
Right.
It wasn't just getting on there and doing weather. It was doing what people in radio love to do, and that was actually disc jockeying, playing music.
Yeah. I remember when Ben, I told Ben that I was at the radio station, and he would call me on Saturday nights during my show. And I remember he said, "Do you mind if I request a song?" I said, "Ben, of course. What do you want to hear?" And it was Steely Dan. I remember "Dirty Work." And I thought, what an odd song to request. I mean, it's a great song, and I love all of Steely Dan, but I said there are so many others to choose. And when he requested that, I always remembered it. So after he died, I played that as a dedication to him. But yeah, he took it upon himself. He came up to the station. He chose to do a Motown Monday show, which again blew me away. I didn't know that he was a Motown fan. And during the course of his volunteerism up at the station, and he worked as long as he could up there, he set up a whole library of Motown hits. And to this day, we have a category called MMM, which is Motown Monday Nights or Motown Magic Monday or something like that. And I've encouraged people to choose from that catalog. There's a picture of him hanging at the station in his memory. And the only thing that frustrates me is he was not there long enough to make that show happen and carry on, because he did such a wonderful job, and it was his therapy,
The last spread of photographs that I took of Ben was at the station, at the McNeese station, and he was his head was still bare from chemo, and he was tired, but we had me and him and my brother, we got together and we had a really fun night there.
It really was his passion. I think it was good therapy for him. And the last time that we actually sat down and had a serious talk about what he was going through was at the station. He came up by himself, and I think somebody dropped him off, and he stayed there on the floor. I could tell he was in pain, and he had a blanket with him, and every once in a while he would cover his head just to kind of find that spot, that was comfortable. And we just talked, and we talked about his cancer diagnosis. I asked him, do you ever ask yourself why, it was you? And we talked seriously about that. We had just a good conversation. And it was at that point I told him, I said, Ben, I don't know why all of this is happening either. I said, if anything, I can't tell you, but I know how much I've learned from you, and I know that the community is learning from you as well. I mean, he was so open about his diagnosis. He was on Facebook all the time talking about what he was going through. I couldn't have done that. I'm very private about my own medical issues, and I don't know that I would have been able to share things going through it, but he didn't. He was open to telling people what was going on without asking for pity, and that's what made the difference is that he was just being honest with what he was going through and throwing his soul out there, so that everybody else could, his heart, to see what he was going through. I told him, I said, I wouldn't have done it. I'm in awe of you at being able to talk about it. Just like you said, you told people to change the channel, if they didn't like what they were hearing. You never say that in broadcasting, Nobody ever tells your audience to change the channel, but he did, because he was that serious about what he was saying about getting out of town for Hurricane Laura. And privately, I kind of said, you know what, Ben, I've always wanted to do that. Way to go,
One of our last conversations, and this is beyond our last coherent conversation.
Right.
This is when I came down 2 weeks before he died, and we talked a little bit about radio and just some of our adventures together, and what a great ride it had been. And I felt a privilege to be able to talk about something that I've loved and been a part of for almost 30 years, and he's been a part of it for 20 of that.
Yeah. I know that feeling. I was smitten with broadcasting when I was like 7 or 8, and did just like I did. I didn't know any of this was happening till after he had passed, and his mom was telling me how he would pretend and back then it was playing and pretending, but not realizing that it was formulating his career as a child. And I said, oh my God, that's exactly what I did.
We spent many evenings together at the radio station where I worked. And then when he was at Mississippi State during the summers, he came and interned at the station where I worked. And it was the best of times for me.
Yeah.
We fought just like brothers. We had skirmishes and battles.
Right.
And we had adventures. And it all revolved essentially around broadcasting, but it became a brotherhood.
Yeah, exactly. And Ben could have a hard head and be stubborn about certain things, just like we do, and we would work through those things. And I'd say, well, just think about this, and just kind of some things to ponder. And he was always open to suggestions. So many, better be careful how I word this. So many folks today don't want to be told, don't want input, don't want constructive criticism. Ben absorbed everything that was presented to him, not just by me, but other people who were in the business. And he stopped and thought about it and developed his own sense of style. And whenever you would suggest something and later I would see it in motion, it was so satisfying, to know that here's someone who wants to learn, who wants to grow and be smooth. And I remember the first couple of times that he was starting to not feel well on the air. And this was back even way before the cancer diagnosis, just when he was really going through fits with his Crohn's and colitis. And he had to leave early on the air and go to the restroom. And we didn't know at the time what he had. And finally, he was open to Brittany and me about what he was going through. And I said, Ben, oh, we will always stay in the studio from now on, and there you won't be left by yourself for 4 or 5 minutes while we go get coffee or go to the bathroom, because we have a 4.5 hour show. So, we were having to take breaks. And I said, don't worry, we will always be in the studio with you. If you ever need to get out of your weathercast early, you just make the motions and we'll be right there to take care of you. And it was so neat to see him share with us. And that's kind of when we, Brittany and I, all became a team with him, because we truly cared about him and wanted to see him succeed. It was really the things that I've learned from him over the years was just amazing. You think when you're in your 60s or late 50s that you've learned it all in broadcasting, but you haven't learned about people. And I think God sent him our way to teach us humility, satisfaction, and if I can't think of any other words to describe it, just that I'm without trying to sound cliche-ish, I'm a better person for knowing him.
Yeah, providential.
Yeah, providential. Yes, thank you.
He was there. We were roommates, and he was there the night that I met my wife. He was there. He was there with me when we got married. And I was there. I always had some jealousy, for the people in Lake Charles because they got to share that last decade and a half.
Yeah.
That, and I was in Indianapolis doing my thing, but
he talked about you a lot. I know exactly. I remember the stories he would tell me about you. And I thought, man, this guy's got it made. With radio and the news division and things like that. That was cool. I
was, privileged to be there, with him.
Yeah.
As we say goodbye to him there in Kosciusko. Like I said, confessing a little bit of jealousy there, but at the same time, joy that he found what he wanted.
Knowing it was there, and I can't tell you what it meant for Brittany Glazer and I to visit with him a few days, probably maybe a week before he died. We were able to sit down and just have a nice chat, and he was with us for the most part during the conversation. He and Brittany and I kind of chuckled about this on the way back from his ceremony the other day when Ben said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be coming back to Channel 7." And we it kind of struck us at the moment, but it was so Ben, the way he said it. It was just matter of fact, and he just I can't describe the way it was. You'd have to be there when he said it. But we never talked about his diagnosis, being scared, what's going to happen. We didn't cry. We didn't have any emotional moments. We just talked as three friends like nothing had ever happened, and that was so neat to just, because Brittany and I were both just dreading the visit. We didn't know what was going to happen. And we just had a nice little friendly chat. And we hugged him, we kissed him, told him we loved him, and we left. And then the day before he died, Brittany got to come and visit him separately, and I got to visit with him with my wife, Connie, Koni, and we sat down, and he was not conscious, but whenever I would say something to him, he would kind of make these guttural sounds to respond. So I had to think that he was hearing me. And the one thing I wanted to let him know, and I said this during the funeral service, was that he was always adamant about people not saying that he lost his battle with cancer. It was important to him that was not the theme, or that it was said in anything after he died. And that was one of the last things I told him, other than I loved him, was that we would not let that happen. And he guttered up something and said, kind of mumbled something, and I said, "Don't worry about that part."
Furthest thing from loser that there was.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, I know, but you don't see that, I guess, in his position. And I said, do not worry about anything like that. And it's like Brittany said too, we knew his Christianity and his beliefs, and so it that took a lot of worry out of our minds that he was in a better place.
Oh yeah.
And that we had no doubts about that. And
that's why he never talked about it being scared. He was not scared.
No.
Well, I can't say that for sure. I mean, I don't know that he wasn't scared, but I never got the impression.
Never got the
impression,
he was scared,
right? For 1 minute.
Right. We didn't know what was going on in that mind of his, but at the same time, he never showed any outward, and that's usually pretty easy to see from someone who, is terminal. I was just so happy he got to go to New York City. It was a good news, bad news thing. I know when he got up there, he didn't get the news that he wanted, but at the same time, it was something that he enjoyed. and could talk about, and to hear
He was pretty ticked off when he got back.
Yeah, he was not happy. But in the long run, he got to drive a wheelchair down, Times Square or wherever they were. And of course, we had a little chuckle about that. I can just see him dealing with that. But yeah, it was not the news that he wanted to hear. But boy, how he handled it, was amazing. Just that he didn't pity himself. He showed anger, which we all would. And I told him, I said, I remember a Sunday school lesson a long time ago that said, you can get mad at God. It's okay. It's acceptable.
Yeah, we are human beings, and we have the wrath, but are commanded at the same time not, be angry, but do not sin.
Right. And so I said, you get mad at God if you want to. I'm right there with you, but he expects that. He wants you to talk to him. So he was, but I can't tell you how much I've learned from him and the whole ordeal. I don't know that I've become such close friends with a coworker as I have with Ben. We just lost our operations manager at KPLC this week, Julie Mesh. She'd been there 38 years. And just died of a heart attack. And she was close friends with all of us. We have like a third of our staff has been there over 30 years. So it hit us again, just like with Ben. And it brought all these back, these feelings back about Ben by losing Julie this week. But life goes on,
Indeed it does. And, We have our time to go before we see him again, and we will find ways to fill that.
Right. I'm just pleased as punch that they started the Ben Terry Fund at with the Southwest Louisiana Community Foundation, and that the money that was left over, and there was quite a bit because Ben didn't spend hardly any of what was raised. To go to a trust fund here that, will go to his different charities that he liked, and that'll keep his name alive,
Indeed, as will we.
Yes, definitely.
Well, John, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here and go find a handkerchief
Chris,
or something.
All right. Well, I hope you get something out of it that you can use. I never did really answer the question about the honor at the LAB, but you only get about a minute to 2 minutes to speak generally because it's a long program. But I just wanted to let the broadcasters know, how important he was to us personally and to the community. And that I'm sure several of them out there knew Ben's story, but I just wanted to quickly let them know that, what we do does make a difference in the community, and how satisfying it was to see Ben grow, and then at the same time, what a hole he left not only in our hearts as friends, but as a talented meteorologist who made a difference. And I told people, I said, that's gone now. It's a void that all that experience has gone. So we'll have to find someone new to take his place. And but I don't think that they'll ever fill his shoes.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So meteorologist Ben Terry, a lot of people in Kosciusko and central Mississippi know him for having grown up here, but he really he made a name for himself in Lake Charles as a KPLC meteorologist. I'll say he was one of my best friends, and we both worked for the same company for a little while last year. We both worked for Gray. And before that, we had known each other for over 20 years, and I knew Ben back when he was a student in community college, and then went on to Mississippi State, and did the meteorology degree. But he went through several news directors while he was there at KPLC.
Sure.
And he told me about each and every one of them extensively. We had a lot of long conversations about the broadcasting business. which was one of our commonalities. But Jillian, what was it about Ben Terry that people loved so much in Lake Charles?
It's so hard to nail down just that one thing. Ben had this really unique ability to deliver the information people needed with the sense of urgency it required, but also without overhyping something. You just immediately trusted Ben's guidance. And it turned from just trusting his forecasting abilities, his role as a meteorologist, to just trusting him as a person. Ben shared so much of his personal life with our audience that, he was an open book for them. And so that's why I think everyone in this town, everyone who watched Ben on the air, didn't just feel connected to him like that's their local weatherman who's going to keep them safe, but they felt like that was their friend that they knew everything about.
How did it come to be that he was inducted into the Louisiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame?
Sure. Well, after years here at KPLC, it was obvious to everyone that we appreciated everything he'd done here. KPLC obviously appreciated all of his hard work and dedication, talking, prior to a cancer diagnosis and then throughout it. I mean, this is a man who was undergoing chemo treatments and radiation in Houston and broadcasting from his hotel room to do the weather daily. His dedication to his job, his commitment to our viewers, was unmistakable. We're just so glad that the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters feels the same way we do. It's just so good to feel like he's getting that recognition he so deserves.
You'd think it would be true to say that he was the epitome, the very definition of TV personality?
Oh, for sure. Yes. I would say that, and but at the same token, you think of a TV personality as someone who almost wants the recognition, and that wasn't Ben. You know what I mean? This was his job. It's what he was born to do. This. It's just the thing he was born to do. He felt this calling toward it, and he happened to be so incredibly open and charming that it was the perfect role for him, was to walk into everybody's living rooms every morning.
Besides the Louisiana broadcasters, what is it that is being, well, I guess the better way to phrase it, how is Ben's legacy going to be lasting in Lake Charles?
Oh, goodness. That's so...
It's a very broad question.
It is. Well, it's so hard to say. And it's funny enough. I mean, I saw someone just last weekend wearing their T-shirt with Ben Terry's face on it that says "Change the channel then." You can't go anywhere in this town without seeing Ben, right? You just can't. And even if you're not seeing it, people stop me in the middle of the grocery store and say, "Oh, you worked with Ben. God bless Ben," because he was such a hero to people. He really was, and still is. And I think if people can live their lives with just a little bit of what he stood for, his faith, his dedication, his commitment to other people, the love he shared, then I think we're all, we're all remembering him in that way. But he's changed our lives. I guess that sounds corny or cheesy, but it's true. He truly has. He's changed the way, especially here at KPLC, he's changed the way we interact with each other.
There was certainly a level of authenticity to the way that
Yeah.
he approached broadcasting and the way that he approached being a part of the community.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Ben, he never met a stranger, obviously. And people just felt like, again, because he was so open and again, prior to his cancer diagnosis, that's what everybody talks about now. But prior to that, he was always so open with viewers, no matter what was going on. If he was having a bad day, he told viewers about it. When his cat ran away one year, he told viewers, I lost my cat. When his cat magically came back 9 months later, he let viewers know. Like, he just was such an open book that you just felt deeply and immediately connected to him. Everyone felt like Ben's best friend.
Well, Jillian, I appreciate this time that you have lent us here in Central Mississippi, talking about everybody's friend, just about anyway, in Lake Charles.
Yeah, he really was. He's a bit unmatched, for sure.